when my mother-in-law texted me a screenshot of an appointment confirmation with my name on it, not a question, not a suggestion, an actual fertility clinic appointment. My hand started shaking so hard I almost dropped my phone into the sink. "We got you in with Dr. Patel," her message chirped. "Next Tuesday at 9:30. You're welcome." And underneath it, like a cherry on top of my humiliation, she added, "Bring Ryan. It's important the husband is present." I stared at the screen, water still running, a dish sponge in my hand like I was midlife, and somebody had just yanked the steering wheel. I read it again, slower, hoping I'd misunderstood, hoping it wasn't what it sounded like, but it was. Someone. My husband's family. The people who still called me sweetie and honey like I was a waitress refilling their iced tea, had booked a fertility appointment for me without asking, like my uterus was a group project they were managing. I turned the water off. The kitchen got quiet, except for the hum of the fridge and the thud of my heartbeat. Then I heard my husband's footsteps coming down the hall. Ryan walked in with his laptop bag over his shoulder, tie loosened, hair a little messy in the way that used to make me think. I'm lucky. He gave me that tired smile. "Hey," he said, "long day." I didn't smile back. I lifted the phone. "Did you know about this?" He leaned in, squinted at the screen. His face did that tiny thing it always did when he didn't want to deal with conflict. His eyes flicked away for half a second, like his brain was searching for the nearest exit. "I mean, my mom mentioned she was looking into options," he said carefully. "She's just trying to help." Help? My voice came out too sharp. I hated that. I hated that the first emotion I gave him was anger instead of the truth, which was fear. "Ryan, this is an appointment with my name on it." He exhaled like I'd asked him to do taxes. "Babe," he said, soft and almost pleading. "She's excited. They all are. They just want grandkids." The sentence landed like a weight on my chest. They want grandkids. Not, "How are you doing?" Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "What do you want?" Just, they want. I'm Nora Collins, 32, born and raised in Ohio. I live in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, where every other driveway has a basketball hoop, and every other conversation at the grocery store somehow turns into kids. How many? How old? What grade? What sport? What club? What camp? Ryan and I have been married for 4 years, together for 7. We're the couple everyone calls solid, the ones who show up on time, bring a bottle of wine, send thank you notes, remember birthdays. We both have good jobs. He's a project manager for a construction company. I work in HR for a regional hospital network. We bought a 3-bedroom house because it was the smart thing, because we were told you buy the house first and the kids follow. Except the kids didn't follow. Not yet. And in the space where everyone expected a baby announcement, a crib, a stroller, there's been quiet. Not because we haven't tried. We have. And that's the part people don't understand. Infertility isn't a single moment. It's a long series of little deaths. A negative test, a late period that turns into a period, a friend's pregnancy announcement that you smile at while something inside you folds in on itself, a baby shower invitation that makes your stomach twist. It's a private grief you keep shoving into a drawer because there's always another family dinner, another holiday, another well-meaning comment. When Ryan and I first started trying, we told no one. It felt intimate. Ours. We had that early newly married optimism, like love and effort were a recipe. Like if we did everything right, the universe would reward us. We tracked ovulation. We bought the little strips. We planned romantic weekends that became scheduled. We laughed it off at first, joked about it. "Guess we'll have to keep practicing," Ryan would say, and I'd laugh like it wasn't already starting to hurt. Then time passed. 6 months, 9, a year. And I started feeling something I couldn't name. Not just sadness, not just impatience, shame. Like my body was failing at the one thing everyone acted like it was built for. Finally, I made an appointment with my OB/GYN. My appointment. I didn't tell anyone. Not even Ryan at first because I didn't want it to become a family event. My doctor was kind, practical. She ran labs. She said things like hormone panels and thyroid and AMH. She explained how normal it was for it to take time. She talked about unexplained infertility and how maddening that can be. She never once made me feel like a broken appliance. But I did. I went home with a pamphlet about fertility testing tucked into my purse like contraband. Ryan reacted the way he always did, supportive in theory, passive in practice. That makes sense, he said. Whatever you need. And I wanted to believe him. The first crack with his family happened at Thanksgiving. We were at his parents' house in suburban Cleveland. His mom, Diane, is the kind of woman who keeps her house so clean, it feels like you're not allowed to breathe in it. Everything beige, everything nice, a kitchen that looked staged for a magazine. We'd barely sat down when his Aunt Linda, the one who speaks in a loud whisper and somehow always knows everybody's business, leaned across the table. "So," she said, eyes bright with faux innocence, "when are you two going to make us a little turkey for next year?" I felt my face go hot. Ryan laughed, a short, nervous laugh. "Soon," he said, like he was answering a question about weekend plans. Linda clapped her hands. "Oh, good, because Diane is just dying to be a grandma. She's been saving baby clothes since Ryan was in high school." Diane smiled tightly. "I'm not dying," she said. "I'm just ready." Everyone laughed. Forks clinked. The conversation flowed on, but I couldn't swallow my food, because the way they looked at me, like the baby was a gift I was withholding, made something inside me recoil. After dinner, when I was in the kitchen rinsing plates, Diane came up behind me. "I didn't mean to embarrass you," she said softly, the way she said things that were absolutely meant to change your behavior. I know it can take time, but you're not getting any younger." I stared at the plate in my hands, water running over it. "We're working on it," I said. Diane touched my shoulder like a priest giving a blessing. "Have you had your hormones checked?" My stomach dropped. "What?" "I read about it," she said quickly. "Sometimes it's just a simple imbalance. Progesterone, estrogen, all that. My friend's daughter had to do injections." I turned off the faucet. "How would you know that?" She blinked, innocent again. Research. I care." In that moment, I should have shut it down. I should have said, "I'm not discussing this." But I was tired, and I still wanted to be liked, still wanted to be the good daughter-in-law. So I gave her a small answer. "My doctor ran some labs. We're fine." And Diane's smile widened, satisfied, like she'd just gotten a password. The next month, we went to a Christmas party at Ryan's cousin's house. It was one of those Midwest Christmas gatherings where everyone pretends not to judge each other while absolutely judging each other. Kids running around in sticky socks, football on in the background, somebody's baby in a little red onesie getting passed around like a trophy. At one point, Diane cornered me near the dessert table and asked, "So when is your next appointment?" I froze. "What?" She leaned in. "You know, your doctor, for the fertility stuff." My chest tightened. I hadn't told her about any appointments. I hadn't told anyone. I looked around, feeling like the room had shifted. "How do you know I have an appointment?" Diane's eyes flicked away. 1 second of guilt. Then she recovered. "Ryan mentioned it." I turned to find Ryan across the room, laughing with his brother, holding a beer like he didn't know his life was about to change. Later in the car, I asked him, "Did you tell your mom about my doctor appointment?" Ryan gripped the steering wheel. "I mean," she asked. I didn't want to lie. "You didn't want to lie," I repeated, slow. "So you told her my medical information." "It's not like it's HIV," he snapped, then immediately looked guilty. I just mean, it's family. She cares." I stared out the window at the string lights blurring past. My throat burned. That night, I cried in the shower so he wouldn't hear. After that, it started accelerating. Like they'd gotten a foot in the door and decided they owned the whole house. Diane would text me articles. "This supplement is supposed to help egg quality. Have you tried cutting dairy? My coworker said acupuncture fixed her cousin's infertility." Then she started sending me money. At first, it was subtle. A card in the mail, just because, with a check for $200. When I texted to thank her and tell her she didn't need to, she replied, "Use it for whatever fertility things you need. Shots are expensive." Shots. She said it like she already knew we were doing shots. I felt like my privacy was dissolving, and nobody noticed except me. One Saturday morning, Diane called while Ryan was mowing the lawn. I answered because I still believed in politeness. "Nora," she said, voice bright, "I have great news." "What?" I asked, already bracing. "I spoke to a woman at church," she said. "Her niece did IVF. It worked on the first try. And she gave me the name of the clinic." My mouth went dry. "Diane, I already called them," she continued, plowing right over me. "They said with your age, your odds are still really good, but you shouldn't wait. And they have financing programs." I stared at the wall, my hand gripping the phone. "Why would you call them?" "Because you're busy," she said, like I was being silly. "And Ryan said you were stressed." I swallowed hard. "Ryan said that?" "Sweetheart," she sighed. "He's worried. And to be honest, we're all worried. He deserves to be a father." There it was. Not, "We're worried about you." Not, "How are you holding up?" Just, "He deserves." My stomach twisted so fast it made me dizzy. "I need to go," I said, and hung up before she could respond. I walked outside and watched Ryan push the mower in straight lines across the yard, like he could control grass even if he couldn't control his mother. When he turned the mower off, sweat on his forehead, I said, "Your mom called a fertility clinic." Ryan blinked. "What?" "She called," I repeated. "She asked about IVF, financing, timing. She talked to someone at church." Ryan's face tightened. "She's just proactive." I laughed, but it wasn't funny. Proactive? Ryan, she's treating my reproductive system like a family renovation project. He rubbed his face. "I'll talk to her." But he didn't. Or if he did, it was the kind of talk that sounded like, "Mom, maybe don't stress Nora out." Which Diane translated into, "Try harder, but be sneakier." The next time we visited, I found a folder on Diane's kitchen counter with my name written on it in tidy cursive. Inside were printouts, charts, IVF success rates by age, top fertility clinics in Ohio, questions to ask your reproductive endocrinologist. I stood there holding the folder like it was radioactive. Diane came into the kitchen carrying a tray of coffee mugs. "Oh, good," she said, smiling. "I put that together for you." I couldn't stop myself. "Why is my name on it?" She blinked. "So you don't lose it." I stared at her. "Diane, this is invasive." Her smile faltered, then hardened. "It's love, Nora. It's called caring. I'm trying to help you before it's too late." Too late? My ears rang. Ryan walked in then, sensing the tension. "What's up?" he asked. I held up the folder. "Your mom made a fertility binder with my name on it." Ryan glanced at it, then at his mother. "Mom." Diane's expression went injured. What? I did research. Some people would appreciate it. I looked at Ryan. Do you appreciate it? He hesitated, and in that hesitation, something in me cracked. Because I realized this wasn't just his mother. It was the system he'd been raised in, where his mom's feelings mattered more than mine, where conflict was avoided by letting Diane have her way, where women were expected to smile and absorb discomfort for the sake of family peace. And my body had become the battleground. The breaking point didn't come in a dramatic explosion at a holiday dinner. It came on a Tuesday morning in my own kitchen with that appointment screenshot. Because the fact that Diane felt comfortable booking an IVF consultation for me meant she wasn't asking anymore. She was deciding. I sat at the table, phone in my hand, while Ryan unpacked his lunch leftovers like nothing was happening. I need you to understand something, I said, voice steady in a way I didn't feel. He looked up. Okay. This ends, I said. The comments, the research, the appointments, the money, the questions, all of it. Ryan frowned. Nora, no, I said. Listen, this is my medical life. It's private. It's not a family group chat topic. He set down his Tupperware. They're just excited. I don't care, I said, and my voice shook on the last 3 words. I don't care if they're excited. I'm not a vessel. I'm your wife. Ryan's jaw tightened. So what? You want me to tell my mom she can't ask about her future grandkids? Yes, I said simply. He stared at me like I'd just spoken another language. Then he said, but what if she's right? What if we're wasting time? What if IVF is the answer and you're just what? I asked quietly. He swallowed. Just scared. I nodded. I am scared. The honesty surprised me, even as I said it, like I'd been carrying it in a locked box, and suddenly the lid popped open. I'm scared, I repeated. I'm scared of needles, of procedures, of the cost, of the emotional roller coaster, of failing again. I'm scared of what it will do to me, to us. My eyes burned. And I'm also scared, I said, of losing myself completely if I let your family control this. Ryan's face softened for a second. Then he looked down. I just don't want to regret waiting. I leaned forward. Then we make decisions together. You and me, with actual doctors. Not your mom's church friend. Silence stretched between us. Finally, he whispered, okay. And in that moment, I decided something deeper than IVF or timing or any of it. I decided I was done performing politeness at the cost of my sanity. That afternoon, on my lunch break, I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot and did something I'd never done before. I created boundaries like they were legal documents. I opened my notes app and typed out exactly what I needed. Not what would keep people happy, what would keep me whole. Then I texted Diane. I didn't call, because calls turn into emotional ambushes with sighs and tears and guilt. Text is clean. Text is a record. I wrote, Diane, I saw the appointment you booked. Please cancel it. Going forward, I'm not discussing fertility or medical information with anyone besides my doctor and Ryan. Please do not schedule appointments, send research, or send money related to fertility. If we have news, we will share it when we're ready. My finger hovered over send for a full 10 seconds. Then I hit it. My heart pounded like I just jumped off a cliff. The reply came within 3 minutes. Wow. I can't believe you're reacting like this when we're only trying to help. I guess we'll just sit back and watch you waste precious time. Ryan deserves better than this silence. There it was again. He deserves. My stomach clenched, but I didn't respond. I had already said what I needed. That night, Ryan's phone rang at 8:12 p.m. He answered on speaker because he assumed it would be casual. Diane's voice filled our living room like smoke. Ryan, she said, strained. I got a very upsetting message from Nora. Ryan looked at me, then said, Mom, I'm not trying to cause drama, Diane said quickly, which is always what people say right before they cause drama. I'm just confused why she's shutting me out when I'm only trying to support you both. Ryan's shoulders tightened. Nora wants privacy. Privacy, Diane repeated like it was an insult. She's your wife, she's family, and I'm your mother. Since when do mothers get banned from caring? I kept my face calm, but inside I was shaking. This is how it always works, I thought. They make your boundaries sound like cruelty. Ryan cleared his throat. Mom, booking an appointment without asking. That wasn't okay. Diane gasped, a sharp theatrical sound. So you're taking her side. It's not sides, he said, voice strained. It's respect. There was a pause. Then Diane's voice dropped into something colder. Fine, she said. If Nora wants to be private, she can be private. But don't be surprised when people start asking questions, because everyone sees what's happening. Everyone knows you've been married 4 years and there's no baby. I felt my face go numb. Ryan's eyes flashed. Mom, don't. I'm just saying, Diane continued. People talk, and if she's so sure she doesn't need help, then she better be sure she can handle it when time runs out. Time runs out. Like I was milk in the fridge. Ryan ended the call. His hand trembled. For a second I thought he might finally explode, but instead he just sat down on the couch and stared at the carpet. She didn't mean it like that, he whispered automatically, like a reflex. I turned to him. Ryan. He looked up, and I said the sentence that changed our marriage in the best way and the hardest way. Your family does not get access to my body. His eyes widened. Not your mom, I said. Not your aunt. Not anyone. They don't get updates. They don't get opinions. They don't get a vote. He swallowed. Okay. And if you want a baby, I said, voice breaking, then you have to be on my team, not in the middle, not keeping the peace. My team. Ryan stared at me for a long moment, like he was seeing the situation clearly for the first time. Then he nodded once. Okay, he said again, but this time it sounded different. It sounded like a decision. Over the next 2 weeks, Diane tried every tactic. The sweet tactic, the guilt tactic, the martyr tactic. One day she dropped off a basket at our doorstep with a note that said, I love you, even if you hate me. Inside were herbal teas labeled Fertility Blend, a baby blanket, and a book called It Starts with the Egg. I stood in the doorway holding the blanket like it was a threat. Ryan came up behind me and whispered, Just ignore it. But ignoring still meant absorbing, and I was done absorbing. I drove the basket back to Diane's house, left it on her porch, rang the doorbell, and walked away without waiting. My phone blew up. Diane. How could you? Ryan's sister, Emily. Mom's crying. What did you do? Aunt Linda. We're all worried. Don't be stubborn. I didn't reply. Instead, I did something that felt radical. I protected myself like I was worth protecting. At work, I spoke to a friend in our compliance department, not because I needed to report Diane, but because I needed language. Words that were firm and not emotional, because families like Ryan's hear emotion as weakness. They hear tears as overreacting, but they hear policy. They hear boundaries. They hear consequences. That weekend, Ryan and I sat at the kitchen table with our laptops and made a plan. Not a baby plan, a boundary plan. We removed his mother from access points she shouldn't have had. We changed passwords on our patient portals. We enabled 2-factor authentication. We told Ryan's family explicitly that no medical details would be shared. We practiced phrases like scripts. We're not discussing that. That's private. We'll share updates when we're ready. And the biggest one, this is not up for debate. The first time we tested it was at a Sunday family dinner. Diane's house again, with the beige everything and the feeling that every wall had ears. Emily was there with her 2 kids, a 5-year-old and a toddler who threw Cheerios like confetti. Aunt Linda was there too, of course, perched like a hawk. We sat down. We passed food. We made small talk. I could feel the question coming the way you can feel thunder in the air before a storm. Sure enough, halfway through the meal, Diane set her fork down gently. "So," she said, eyes on me, "did you keep the appointment?" I didn't look at Ryan. I answered myself. "No," I said. Diane's lips pressed together. "Why not?" "We're making our own medical decisions," I said calmly. Linda leaned forward. "But honey, IVF takes time. My neighbor's daughter had to do 3 rounds. You can't just—" "We're not discussing fertility," I said. The table went quiet for a beat. Then Emily made a nervous laugh. Okay, we get it." Diane's eyes flashed. "I'm not trying to interrogate you. I'm trying to understand why you're shutting out the people who love you." I kept my voice steady. "Because love doesn't require access to my medical information." Linda scoffed. "Oh, for heaven's sake, it's just a uterus." My body went cold. Ryan's chair scraped back slightly. "It's my wife's body," he said, voice low and firm. "So it's not just anything." Diane stared at him like he'd betrayed her. "I raised you," she said quietly. Ryan didn't flinch. "And I'm grateful. But this isn't your decision." Diane's eyes filled with tears, fast and practiced. "So I'm the villain now." No one spoke. The toddler squealed, oblivious. I inhaled slowly and said, "No, Diane, you're not a villain, but you are crossing a line. And the line stays." Diane's mouth opened, then closed. And in that moment, I realized something important. A boundary doesn't require their agreement. It requires your consistency. After that dinner, Diane tried to regain control through a different route. My parents. My parents live in Cincinnati. They're warm, messy, normal. The kind of people who hug too hard and serve food on mismatched plates. I love them. And Diane knew that if she could get them to pressure me, I'd feel cornered. So one afternoon, my mom called me. "Nora," she said, voice hesitant, "did you and Ryan have some kind of fight with his mom?" My stomach dropped. "Why?" "She called me," Mom admitted. "She said you're refusing help. She made it sound like you're struggling and shutting everyone out." I closed my eyes. "Mom, she booked a fertility appointment for me without asking." Silence. "Then, she did what?" "She's talking about my hormones behind my back," I said, voice shaking. "She's sending money like I'm a broken machine. She's telling people Ryan deserves to be a father. And she's acting like I'm the obstacle." My mom's voice turned sharp. "Oh, absolutely not." Relief flooded me so fast I almost cried. "I told her," Mom continued, "that you're a grown woman and she needs to mind her own business." She got real quiet, then said she's only trying to save you from regret. I let out a bitter laugh. "Of course." Mom sighed. "Honey, are you okay?" And that was the difference. Not when will you have a baby? Not what's wrong with you? Just, are you okay? I swallowed hard. "I'm trying to be." Mom said softly, "Then we'll do it your way." After that, I stopped being polite in ways that harmed me. When Diane texted, "Any updates?" I replied, "No updates to share." When Linda cornered me at a cousin's birthday party and whispered, "I heard your progesterone might be low," I said, louder than necessary, "I'm not discussing my medical information," and walked away. When Emily tried to smooth things over by saying, "Mom just wants to feel included," I said, "This isn't about inclusion. This is about consent." And yes, it made things awkward. But I started noticing something. The people who benefited from my silence were always the ones most upset when I stopped being silent. Ryan struggled at first, not because he disagreed, but because he was learning a new skill: disappointing his mother. One night, after Diane left him a voicemail, sobbing about losing her son, he sat on the edge of the bed with his head in his hands. "I feel like I'm tearing my family apart," he said. I sat next to him. "No," I said quietly. "Your mom is tearing it apart by refusing to respect us." He looked at me, eyes red. "I hate that you're the one taking the hits." I reached for his hand. "Then stand with me." And he did. Not perfectly, but consistently. He started answering his mother with short, firm statements. "Mom, stop asking. Mom, that's private. Mom, if you keep pushing, we'll leave." And the first time he actually followed through, when Diane brought up IVF at Easter brunch, and he stood up, put his napkin on the table, and said, "We're going home." I felt something shift in me, not triumph, relief, like I could finally breathe. The weird part about setting boundaries is that the world doesn't end. Your heart tells you it will. Your anxiety tells you you'll be abandoned. But what actually happens is simpler. People adjust, or they reveal themselves. Diane didn't adjust right away. She escalated. She told extended family I was keeping Ryan from being a father. She said I was controlling. She said I was sensitive. At one point, Linda posted a vague Facebook status. "Some women forget the purpose of marriage." I saw it because someone at work sent me a screenshot with a laughing emoji. I didn't laugh. I sat in my office bathroom stall with my phone in my hand and felt the old shame try to crawl back in. Maybe I am broken. Maybe I'm ruining everything. Then I remembered the truth. My worth wasn't conditional on my fertility, and I was not going to sacrifice my mental health to earn respect from people who refused to give it freely. So I made a bigger decision. I cut the cord completely. I called my doctor and asked to lock down my medical privacy. I verified my HIPAA settings. I made sure Ryan was the only person authorized to discuss anything. Then I did something that felt both petty and powerful. I stopped giving Diane any surface area. No more personal details. No more small openings she could pry into. If she asked how work was, I said, "Busy." If she asked how I was feeling, I said, "Fine." If she asked about our plans, I said, "We're handling it." Short, boring, unusable. And then, one Saturday in June, Diane tried one last stunt. She showed up at our house, unannounced. I was in leggings, hair in a messy bun, eating cereal at 11 a.m. because it was my day off, and I wanted to enjoy it. The doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and felt my stomach drop. Diane stood there holding a tote bag. I opened the door because avoiding her felt like letting her control my home. "Hi," I said, neutral. Diane smiled too brightly. "I brought something." I didn't move. "What is it?" She stepped forward like she owned the threshold. "I got you a gift." I glanced at the bag and saw a stack of papers inside. My chest tightened. "What are those?" Diane's smile stayed fixed. "Consent forms for IVF. I already filled out most of it. We just need your signature." My body went cold. I heard my own voice come out calm, almost detached. "No." Diane blinked. "Excuse me?" "No," I repeated. "You need to leave." Her eyes widened, offended. "Nora, don't be dramatic. This is important. Ryan wants a baby. He's just too scared to push you." That sentence hit me like a slap. My hands shook, but I kept my voice steady. "Diane," I said, "you are not welcome to bring fertility paperwork into my home." She scoffed. "So you're just going to do nothing? You're going to waste his life?" I felt something in me harden. I stepped onto the porch so she couldn't push inside. I'm going to say this once, I said. My fertility is not a family discussion. It is not your project. You will not schedule appointments, bring forms, send money, or talk about my body to anyone. If you do it again, we will take a break from seeing you. A real break. Diane's face changed. The sweetness dropped. Her voice turned sharp. So you're threatening me? I'm informing you, I said. She stared at me, jaw tight. You think you can keep a mother from her son? I held her gaze. I'm not keeping you from anyone. Your behavior is. For a second, the porch was silent except for distant lawnmowers and a dog barking down the street. Then Diane said, low and bitter, Fine. Don't come crying to me when you regret it. And she walked back to her car, tote bag still in her grip, like she couldn't stand to leave her control behind. When she drove away, my knees went weak. I closed the door and slid down against it, breathing hard. I didn't cry, not because I wasn't hurt, but because something inside me was finally, fully done. When Ryan got home, I told him everything. His face went pale. She came here, he asked. With IVF consent forms, I said. He ran a hand through his hair, furious and shaken. That's insane. I nodded. I told her if she does it again, we're taking a break. Ryan swallowed. Okay. Then he did something I wasn't expecting. He picked up his phone and called her right then, on speaker. Diane answered on the second ring, voice bright. Ryan. Mom, he said, voice flat. Did you go to our house today? Silence. Then, I just stopped by to talk. Did you bring IVF paperwork? He asked. Another pause, then a sigh. I'm trying to help you. Mom, Ryan said, cutting in, and I could hear the steel in his voice. You are not allowed to do that. Ever. Diane's voice sharpened. So Nora told you her version. My version? Ryan repeated. Mom, you brought legal medical forms to my wife's house, without her permission. She's wasting time, Diane snapped. You want kids. You've always wanted kids. Ryan's voice lowered. I do. But I want my wife more than I want your approval. I pressed my hand to my mouth. Diane inhaled sharply like she'd been punched. So that's it. You're choosing her. Ryan didn't hesitate. Yes. The word landed in the air like a door finally locking. Diane's voice wobbled. After everything I've done for you. Ryan exhaled. We're taking a break, Mom. A real break. No visits, no calls. We'll reach out when we're ready. Diane's breath hitched. You can't. Ryan ended the call. He stared at his phone for a moment, like he couldn't believe he'd done it. Then he looked at me and said quietly, I'm sorry it took me so long. I didn't say, it's okay, because it hadn't been okay. Instead, I said the truth. Thank you. The next month was strange, peaceful, but also raw. No Sunday dinners, no group texts, no passive-aggressive memes about motherhood, and without the constant noise, I could finally hear my own thoughts again. Ryan and I started therapy, not because we were falling apart, but because we didn't want to. We learned how to talk about fertility without it becoming a battlefield. We learned how to name grief instead of burying it. We learned how to sit in uncertainty without letting it swallow us. And we made a decision. Not because Diane pushed, not because Linda posted something on Facebook, because we wanted to. We met with a reproductive endocrinologist, our choice, our timing, our clinic. We asked questions. We listened. We took information home and sat with it. We talked about IVF like adults, not like people being dragged into it. We talked about alternatives, about timelines, about finances, about emotional cost. And in the middle of all that, I realized something that surprised me. Even if we did IVF, It would not be because I'd been forced. It would be because I'd chosen it. That distinction mattered more than anyone in Ryan's family would ever understand. Around August, Diane sent a letter, a real paper letter, like it was 1996, and she was writing from war. Inside, she apologized. Not perfectly, not fully. But it was something. I realize I overstepped, she wrote. I thought I was helping, but I was controlling. I'm sorry for making you feel like your body was ours to discuss. I'm learning. I read it twice, then handed it to Ryan. He read it slowly, eyes narrowed. What do you think? He asked. I considered. I think, I said carefully. We respond when we're ready, and we keep our boundaries no matter what. Ryan nodded. We didn't rush back into family dinners. We didn't suddenly share updates. We didn't reward apology with access. We rebuilt slowly, on our terms. By December, Ryan and I had learned to protect our marriage like it mattered. Because it did. And on Christmas Eve, when we walked into Diane's house for the first time in months, the air felt different. Diane hugged me gently, like she was aware that hugs could be used as weapons and she was trying not to. At dinner, Linda started to say something, some familiar line about biological clocks. Diane cut her off before I even had to speak. That's not a topic, Diane said firmly. Linda blinked, startled. I was just... No, Diane said again. Not here. I sat there, fork in hand, heart pounding, not because Linda had been shut down, but because I realized Diane had actually heard me. The night ended without a single fertility question. No jokes, no pity looks, no whispered hormone conversations, just food and laughter, and a board game that got way too competitive. On the drive home, Ryan glanced at me. You okay? He asked. I nodded, surprised by my own answer. Yeah, I said. I think I am. And later, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not certainty, not a guarantee, but hope. Hope that my life could be mine again, no matter what happened with babies. Hope that love could exist without control. Hope that my worth wasn't measured in ultrasound photos. I don't know exactly what our fertility journey will look like in the end. Maybe IVF works for us. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe our family grows in a way we didn't plan. But I do know this. The moment I stopped letting other people treat my body like public property, I got my dignity back. And once you taste that kind of freedom, you don't trade it away again. Not for approval, not for peacekeeping, not even for the promise of becoming who everyone else thinks you're supposed to be. Because my life isn't a vessel for other people's expectations. It's a home, and I finally learned how to lock the door.